Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto video. This is going to be my speculation ahead of Boruto Manga Chapter 60, which is coming out on the 20th of July. So we're about 10 days away from release. This is when I tend to do these speculation videos, so it's before any sort of like leaks or kind of spoilers come out for the chapter ahead of the actual release date. So just based off basically where we were before, what am I thinking is going to happen in this chapter? So kind of interesting. 60, a little bit of a milestone, but not obviously that huge of a milestone. I suppose it technically is 5 years of Boruto. Obviously we get like 12 chapters a year, so yeah, this is like the 5 year sort of anniversary. It's also the start of a volume. I think volume 16 or so, because it's 4 chapters per volume. The last chapter was a volume ender. This is going to be a volume starter. Now, we're in a bit of an interesting spot because a lot of the recent volume endings have been a big cliffhanger building up to a big fight. So it was very clear what was going to happen in the volume that followed. You're going to get the fight. Here, though, our big cliffhanger ending was Amado being kind of confronted by Sumire about, okay, you're offering this to Kawaki, but you seem to care about him much more beyond just the way someone who cares about him would. So what's going on? Are you plotting something? And Amado kind of being like, I told you not to, pry any further, and you just did. You're so stupid. As if he's about to sort of reveal what he's about coming forward. So I think most of what we're going into here, because again, a lot of the speculation over the last couple of months has been, when's the time skip coming? And at this point it feels like the time skip is probably not going to happen until either the end of this volume or maybe even the end of next volume, because while there is a big sort of attack that we're expecting to happen at some point, that being Code, Ada, and now Demon, the three of them attacking the village, their plot has led us to believe that they are being very cautious about when they actually go about executing that attack, because they know that everyone that Code is after is going to be under really high security, that the whole world, the whole ninja world is basically looking for them. And 3 versus all the ninjas is not good odds, despite how powerful these characters are. So what they settled on in chapter 59 was that we are going to sort of wait for our moment to strike, and they can see any moment because of Ada's power. So that's the kind of key in all of this, is that they're going to wait and see. They're not just going to charge in like you'd usually think they would, like Ishiki did twice basically. They're not going to do that. Instead, they're going to wait. They're going to use Ada's power where she can see everything that happens, and when there's a bit of an opening, that's when they're going to attack. So the question is really, when does that opening happen, and what is that opening? If Amado activates some sort of a plan here and something happens, there's a way to attack. If something draws like the attention away because of some other threat, that's the option. But I'm guessing the chapters that we have coming up are going to be, again, like last volume, more setup chapters. That, sure, I'm assuming we're eventually going to get some big reveals with Amado, which is what I do think has to be the focus of some of these chapters. The other thing would be that in last volume, over the last 4 chapters, Boruto wasn't in 2 of the chapters. That was the big surprising thing about the last 4 chapters, is that we went like what we had: Boruto, no Boruto, Boruto, no Boruto. Boruto wasn't in the last chapter, so he's going to have to make an appearance once again to see how the anti-Otsutsuki drugs are affecting him. Are we seeing the side effects take place? We also, we did a lot of work to build up the idea that they're doing some training. They're doing training, ninja training, because Boruto beat Kawaki in that fight to decide what type of training that they're going to be doing. Can we finally figure out what that training actually is? That was a little bit of a weird point with the last chapter, was that they seemingly just went past that and immediately had Amado straight away going to Kawaki. You want power straight away, don't you? I can make it so that your karma, which is still there, but no longer can be used for resurrection for Ishiki. I can make it so that, kind of like code, you can use it for its power purposes, but the really negative aspects to it won't be there. Do you want me to do this? And this is the big question with Kawaki. Now, I think that's cool and all, because we know ultimately Kawaki is going to get a karma mark at some point, ahead of, building up to chapter 1 of Boruto again, the flash forward scene. So it happens, but when does it happen? How does it happen? And what are the details that surround it? Because it still feels like we could go to the time skip sort of whenever. It could be as simple as just piecing stuff together right now, or there could be a few other reveals, in the sense that, like, Otsutsuki characters could be introduced that we were unfamiliar with, and it could be related to them, but, who really knows right now. So that was a kind of interesting point, because I thought that they'd almost take a slower approach of having Kawaki struggle with the training, and they'd get across, like, this is what we're trying to accomplish, but it not working for him, and him not being used to, in a less forced situation, to have to do this training where it's just your sort of desire, your intent, driving you forward, and that would eventually draw him into, yeah, I want the power immediately. So it's fine that they're setting that up, but I hope they don't commit to, like, making that happen too soon, just because, to me, it still feels like we're relatively close to all of those amazing chapters that we had building up. Kawaki opening up to Naruto, becoming friends with Boruto and the rest of Team 7 and so on, other characters in the village. That to suddenly potentially put that a little bit to the side and have him go straight down the quest for power road, it just feels a little bit too much, and you need to do a little bit more build up to that, which I'm hoping they will do, and that's why they had Kawaki leave without really making a decision, and more of the intent of the last chapter was to build up. Amado wants Kawaki to agree to this sort of a reawakening of the karma mark in a slightly different way, but for what reasons? And so this is where it's very difficult to speculate on, because ultimately I just don't think we know enough right now about Amado to really make any kind of clear-cut suggestions, because to me, anything and everything is sort of open with Amado. Like, the idea that he could be a sort of secret Otsutsuki himself, and is just staying really low in all of this, and this might help to explain why he has such intricate knowledge of how Otsutsukis work and what they're about. It might also help to explain how he is so familiar with the karma mark, how he could theoretically, activate this ability within Kawaki in a different way. How he was able to help Jigen with all of these kind of plans and so on, as well as maybe how he knows about sort of enhanced technology. Now, the enhanced technology aspect, the idea that he is basically the best scientist in the world, yet we'd never heard about him before, and he immediately sort of straight away sort of surpasses, the higher up people, the ninja tool experts that we've seen up to now. And what he's able to do, it almost feels like he's better than an Orochimaru or something like that. So where does his advancements in technology come from? In that, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me that he's just from some random town somewhere that we maybe haven't heard about before. So that brings up the speculation that, like, what if he's also from a different planet or a different dimension where it is much more higher forms of technology, and he's not from like an Otsutsuki race, but a different race, because that's the whole point there in terms of larger world building. The planet that Naruto takes place on is basically, the Earth equivalent. They're humans. Otsutsuki are an alien species from a different dimension. And because of like what happened with Kaguya and stuff like that, the spreading around of chakra, the reason the humans even have ninjutsu is because they basically have an aspect of this alien power, more or less. So if there's one other sentient species, it would make sense that there's others out there, given that, especially towards the end of Naruto, we have the idea of multiple dimensions and all these different planets and areas that we're going to. Most of them seem uninhabited, but, if there's Otsutsukis and humans, there has to be something else as well. And maybe he is from one of those other planets or dimensions that has higher technology, which helps to explain why when he works with Ishiki and Kara, how he's able to give all of the Kara members such incredible power, because again, they're talking about the idea of, Ada, Demon, the other cyborgs, if there are any more, are more powerful than Ishiki was in his sort of Jigen form, which was really powerful already. And that Code has a limiter placed on him to also help him from not being as powerful. Not to mention just some of the abilities that they have are really, really like absurd and like broken, like people have pointed out. Like Demon's ability seems crazy. The idea that if you just think about like hurting or killing him, he can immediately like reflect that attack back on you. Ada's abilities, of course, are like wild when you consider the idea that he accomplished that with technology. Like, how? So there has to be some sort of deeper connection there. Like, to me, it would almost be a little bit unsatisfying if it was just a reveal where he's just this guy who happens to be a good scientist, and maybe because of Ishiki, he was able to like advance his technology a little bit more, and he's just this guy who cares about, getting this power he needs to fulfill whatever wish he wanted Ishiki to accomplish. That relates to his daughter in some way. That might be Delta. Who knows what's going on with all this stuff. But, I want to wait and see what the general idea is in all of this. And why is he so set on, doing something more with Kawaki? So, again, the dialogue here from Sumire, like, you immediately checked on Kawaki's well-being and you appeared profoundly relieved that he was okay. Yet you seemed more motivated by something other than mere concern over his welfare. The truth is that I wish to be your assistant on my own. I'm very worried about Kawaki and Boruto. Plus, and she says, so are you plotting something? She obviously really has, they've shown this a few times. Her watching the dynamic between Amado and Kawaki, and that there's been a few times when it seems like Amado wants to say something to Kawaki but then is held back. Now we know it's like, okay, suggesting using the karma mark in this way. But why? Does he just want Kawaki to be powerful enough to save the day because he is truly allied with Konoha, or what? Because to me, if you give him back the karma mark, it suddenly makes Kawaki more powerful, and I suppose theoretically makes him an ideal vessel. So is it more on that side of things? Like, if he is a secret Otsutsuki, what if he decides to suddenly take Kawaki at his most powerful? That could be something interesting to consider, but it's hard to fully keep it in place, because it is earlier on in this chapter, I believe, that they talk about that exact mechanic. The idea that they basically shut down Kawaki's plan about Boruto implanting a karma mark in Code, because the idea of like two karma marks in one isn't necessarily like ideal in any way. That wouldn't work as such. So what is it? Let me find the scene here specifically. He says, it's not a bad idea in theory. If it works, Boruto can resurrect and be saved, and you'll get rid of two birds with one stone. However, though imperfect, Code already has a karma, so it's highly questionable whether you'd even be able to implant his body with another karma. Plus, even if you succeed, Boruto cannot resurrect until extraction is completed and Code's body is fully Otsutsukified. So that maybe points towards that, like, if Amado is basically saying, no, don't do that because I want to do this to you, I'm not sure. It might be too a little on the nose, him being another Otsutsuki, because, again, we have to keep in mind that one of the major reveals with Amado with the story was that he was working with Kashin Koji to try and take down Ishiki, and that worked. He is happy that Ishiki is gone. So why necessarily does he want to do that when he has like other motivations? And it's just like that. Like, what are his motivations now? He has protected himself. He's now with people who are beginning to trust him in Konoha, but now he has some sort of a deeper plan with Kawaki. And you try to connect the dots of like, okay, Kawaki seems like he's gone down a darker path as of the first chapter of Boruto, the Flash Forward. How do we get from here to here? and it's like, okay, Amado actually has other goals in mind. I'm not really sure on what the idea is. Um, this is where I think they're probably going to introduce some sort of dynamic with the chakra fruit. That, okay, he doesn't want Ishiki to do what Ishiki wants to do, but he maybe still wants the divine tree to be a thing, because the chakra fruit is something he sees as being maybe capable of accomplishing anything, more than technology, more than science, and that if he gets the chakra fruit in all of this, that will save his daughter or something like that. That might be a goal that I find interesting, that the Otsutsukis wanted to gain more power, but here is someone who wants it for something else. That the idea that its fruit can accomplish anything, or something like that. Because again, like we're still waiting to see like what happens like with the 10 tails, and like what exactly is Code going to do when he does choose to strike. And how are we really set up to deal with all of that? Because again, we haven't gone back to Sasuke in a while to see where he's at after losing his eye. We haven't, apart from one line in this chapter where we established that right now Amado believes that Naruto would not be a match for Code, and that if he fought him, he might put up a fight, but he'll probably die within that fight. So they're sort of establishing that, okay, that seems to be the angle we're going for here, is that without the Rinnegan and without Kurama, Naruto and Sasuke are now not the huge, threats that they used to be. They can still put up a good fight, but in a fight where typically before you'd expect them to win, they're now like, no, they'd probably die in this fight. So who do we get up to that level to fight them? Because that's the big problem that we have here. Code, Demon, Ada reveals, of course, she is not a fighter here. All she knows is basic taijutsu, so her plan is not to actually fight, but just to act as support. So it's going to be Code and Demon fighting with maybe the rest of Boro's cult. I don't really know. 2-on however many, like, it's not too even. There's just maybe another android type character, cyborg character to be revealed. Who knows? But in terms of fighting, like I talked about in my review for the last chapter, Demon's powers prompt an interesting discussion about, like, okay, he needs to fight someone who doesn't have an intent to kill, or has the right attitude where he wouldn't get swept away in the emotions that Demon's powers seem to kind of rely on to work. So maybe a Mitsuki would be ideal there. Maybe even a Naruto would actually be suited to take him on. But, it's a kid. I can't really see Naruto facing Demon, so what's going on here? And again, something has to happen to Naruto. Naruto has to be, like, sent away somewhere so Kawaki can say that to Boruto in the chapter, the chapter 1 flashback scene again, flash forward scene. It's just, we're in a spot that's very interesting, where they could absolutely choose in the next chapter to cut completely away from the Amado thing and keep that going on for another chapter, where we cut back to Boruto, we find out what he's up to, Kawaki still pondering his decision around should he go ahead with Amado's proposal to reactivate his karma mark. I think we have to see Kawaki actually do the training with Boruto and the team and see how that goes. And if it's a bit of a failure, you can maybe see him leaning more towards going ahead with that idea with Amado. But then, Amado, do they have a big reveal happen in the first chapter, or do they wait until a later chapter in this upcoming volume? That's a big question as well. Sumire, it seems like Sumire is potentially now at risk if she's maybe exposed Amado in some way, but what is he capable of doing? We know he has tricks up his sleeve, but Sumire also has, the Nue to protect her, so that might be a kind of surprise in all of this as well. Anything else I really want to talk about here? Not particularly. Like I said, the Code and Ada stuff was mainly just, introducing Demon, who is Ada's brother. That's notable. And then just the idea that they're going to wait and strike when there is an opening. And now whether Amado's reveal causes some sort of chaos, or Kashin Koji comes back to the village and causes a bit of chaos, maybe that creates a bit of an opening. that's still the sort of stuff that we're waiting for here. So I think probably in terms of bigger reveals that can happen, maybe early on, Sasuke coming back, I think would be important. More focus on Naruto, I think, would be interesting to just to see where he's at in all of this. Yeah, like I said, Kashin Koji's return would be kind of interesting to see how that potentially changes Amado's perspective and just what they're about at this point. And then beyond that, yeah, it's just the Kawaki arc that they seem to be going on here of his, will he take the right road to gain power by doing the ninja training, or will he take the quick and easy road of just reactivating the karma? Now, my guess is, I think they'll take the approach where initially he decides, no, I'm going to try and do things the right way. But something will happen where he needs that power right now because something is happening, like right now. And he'll be forced to do it in some kind of, his hand is forced type of way. And that's where things go. The question obviously is, how does Kawaki then become, I suppose, the opposition to Boruto? Because they're still bros right now, basically. They argue from time to time, but they are close at this point. What rips that apart to where they are on opposite sides of this issue? That's where the problem comes in, that opposite sides to the point where Kawaki, who views Naruto as basically his father figure, has done something to him. Now, the problem with the Karma Mark Otsutsuki thing is that, theoretically, that could be any Otsutsuki in control of Kawaki's body, acting under him. But, now we sort of present the idea that actually that could just be Kawaki with the Karma Mark power, but no Otsutsuki involved. How does that work? So, I think the very thematic, emotional response and how this would work would be that, like, Boruto implants his Karma Mark in Kawaki. Like, Kawaki accepts that. And so the threat of Boruto transforming into Momoshiki is gone, or something like that. And it's now Kawaki who will be the one to transform in that way. But now Momoshiki has the ultimate vessel. And that maybe helps to explain how, okay, Boruto still has, he's still Otsutsukified or something like that. But it gets confusing because they both still have the Karma Mark and there's a few nuances going on. It's hard to tell what exactly is going on. And then let's not forget Jogon. Everyone wants to know about the Jogon, but they don't want to talk about the Jogon. Who knows what's going on with that. I think I'm just going to wrap it up there, just because, and acknowledge that we're just in a spot where I think it is just hard to predict exactly the direction that we're going to go in. Just finally, I think the chapters that we're going to get for the next at least 2 or 3, they might surprise us with the last chapter in this upcoming volume. I think these chapters are going to feel a lot like the last 4 of just sort of setup stuff, establishing the training, a few of the plot points that we're dealing with at this point in time, of just sort of characters pondering kind of what to do next, how quick is the threat going to activate, a few kind of, looking in at what Ada, Code, and Demon are doing, and then maybe a surprise or two with regards to like a Sasuke or a Kashin Koji, who we're expecting to do something at some point. 10 days to go until the chapter. In the comments, let me know what you expect to happen. Based on chapter 59 and everything that's come before, what do you think is going to happen in this upcoming chapter 60, the first chapter in a new volume? Are you expecting big reveals for Amado? Are you expecting just it to be more of the same, just like the kind of training type of arc thing we're going on? Or do you think there'll be much more impactful stuff going on? But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.